Good. So what I want to do today is we're going to go through some Kion Ippon Kumite, just some defensive techniques. Then what I want to do is I want to break those then into Jiu Ippon Kumite. And then what I want to do after that is then break it into almost a multiple partner kind of drill. So you'll be able to use this in your imagination to be able to deal with those opponents, you know, when you get back with people, which seems to be really soon, says Dr. Optimistic, right? My second COVID shot was 2 weeks ago on Tuesday. I am officially free, okay, in theory, but we'll see. I'm still not going to go mental. But the thing is that then you'll be able to try that. And then what we're going to do is all of these, it's going to be pretty obvious that I'm theming this just around a single kata. And then what we'll do at the end is we'll then theme it into, we'll actually do the kata itself and just talk about the principles that are related to that. So that's the idea for today. Okay, I'm just going to kick off the waiting room just so I don't have to tool around with it. And then close down the participants. Right, okay. So let's move, just nice and relaxed. From here, Hiyoi, all I want you to do from here is you're just going to slide just backwards on about a 30-degree angle, making Geran Marai. So it's just going to be here, sliding, then Yakuzuki. Okay, just nice and relaxed. Just here, slide back and punch. Nice and relaxed, just relax through the motion. Ready? Each, one, then two. Good, then coming back. Try it again. Knee and back. Good, again, sun. Good. Okay, now as you move, of course, just because we're putting this into a combative sort of context, what I want you to think about is even as you load, a lot of you will pay attention, quite rightly so, you'll pay attention to this arm, right? This one that's making the block. But think about the other actions that you could do with this arm. Think about this covering hand. Think about it because there's an attack coming straight in, is that I'm covering with this hand and blocking, right? A lot of, if you ever watch Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon, right, the famous tournament scene, right, where he's standing there opposite the person, their hands are crossed like so. If you watch him in that action, if you slow down the video footage, he's not just sort of hit. He's doing literally 1, 2, 3. There's 3 actions within that single movement. It's really freaking fast. You want to have those same sorts of concepts. Use all of the movement, all of the motion that's available to you. So when you make this block, you can think of a cover here, a slap, something out into their face. As you make this load up, right, you can make action out of this part for something that you want to do, even if it's just a jab, just to get them to flinch. This opposite hand can be used to block, right? So this hand that's coming out, and then of course, there's my final block, positioning them in a position where I want to be able to hit them, right? Moving them to that. Then of course I can make use, next technique. So as you move, feel that action. You may emphasize here, you may emphasize here, but of course, above all else, ensure that it fits with your body action, ensure that it fits with your body timing. So this leg jamming, this leg here, that's where the energy hits. The rest of it's fluid. Then of course, driving in as you would normally do so. So you may want to slow it down, feel those actions go through, because we're going to be changing it up in a second. This is just to get you warm. So let's try it. Ready? Just maybe we'll do it a couple of times. Ish. Good. And then up. Knee. Good. Then up. Good. And then also pay attention to how you stand up. Not sort of, right? You've still got somebody you just hit. So we're here. Feel that cover, feel that action as you come up. Don't sort of pity-pat your feet. Drive, then feel the action coming up. Keep yourself protected at all times. A sun. Good, and up. Shi. And up. Go. Good, and up. So try. Make sure that you're not in this position at the blocking point for today. I want it here. This action happens in the action. So this, that happens together. It's going to be important in a little bit, yeah? Shi. Good, and up. Go. Good. One more. Look. Good. So, this time, what I want, and this is going to be difficult, I want you to be able to, this time, have the feeling of making, at the moment I made you emphasize, block connection here. What I want you to do is I want you to start to blur the line between the connection here and the punch. You can leave this out. So it's going to be here, almost punch. Okay? So it's going to be almost, as soon as you feel that connection here, drive off it and drive straight in. Leave this hand where it is. Okay? Ready? Ish. Good. And back. Knee. Good. And back. So don't just make geramai like Okazaki. Watch my arms. I'm here. I'm connecting, making my cover. One, this will hit, and then the other hand goes. Okay, leave this out. Then make a boom boom. Ready? Sun. Good, and back. Shi. And back. Go. And back. Oh. And back. Shi. And back. With this punch, with the second punch, you can go chudan, you can make it jodan, wherever you want. Just make it tate. Tate's fine. Doesn't need to be all the way over, right? That fits within the technique we're doing. Boom, boom. Ready? Shi. Hach. One more. Chu. One more. Chu. Good, and relax. Now from here, just in one action, feel here, just twist, block, let the block happen as you're moving, and as soon as that foot like bam, fire out. So it ends up more simultaneously. More simultaneously. More simultaneously. I'm still loading. I'm still loading. Feel action here as it goes. Feel action here as it moves. Action here as it moves. Ready? Itch. Good. Those who can, you can add in the in-between steps in there, right? You can add in from here the cover. You can add in whoa, to drive the other pieces of the technique if you want them. Right? If that's difficult, then just add in its most basic sense. Does that make sense? But if you can add in the block here, boom, 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 to make the drive, then do it. Okay? But don't get obsessed with it. We're only interested in the end point for today. Block, counter simultaneously, or one just behind the other. Ish. Knee. Sun. Shi. Good. One more action now. We're going to get into the first part. Boom, boom. Second action, through into Juji-uke, into Dutch. So ready? Ish. Knee. Good, and relax. Try again. Ish. Good, and then step. Knee, sorry, my bad. Good, and I got all excited. I was watching Marcelo go, and he just went wham wham, and I was like, yeah! And I forgot to do the second count, small brain. Ready? Ish. Knee. Boom, good. Now with the Juji-uke, so all we're doing with this piece is just Juji-uke. Juji-uke in my mind does not exist as this weird jamming thing. In my mind, its primary use to me is just Gerenbara and Gyakuzuki simultaneously, right? And so that's what I'm doing, and there's multiple ways to do it. We covered about 3 or 4 different ways to do it, and varying degrees of sort of breaking it out. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, big action, 2, notice how my hip fires later, and then of course just 1 together. But at the end of the day, no matter what happens, this arm has a short distance to go, this arm has a long distance, they're always going to be out of sync. Right? It's always going to be 1, 2. It's just that degree of 1 and 2 is going to get smaller and smaller depending on which version you do and what you've got going on in the middle. So as you go, one of the things that's critical is make sure that your block is not soft. Make sure that you still have emphasis in this block and in the driving leg, whether it's in Hami or Shomen, depending on what you're doing. But make sure that you don't have a dead arm or a floppy arm here with no stance connecting it. You've got to make sure that there's some drive from the rear leg to this wrist, always. Right? Whether it's here or here, no matter which, you've got to make sure that's in. And the drive of the hip with it. Does that make sense? It just depends if you're landing in Shomen or Hami. Okay, ready? So 1, then 2, 1 count. Ish. Good. And again, I'm just cutting the 45. Knee. Good. Sun. Good. One more. She. Good. Now as you make that transition from the first to the second technique, make sure here Zenkuts, use the drive of this leg, right? The action is not this sort of stop, but the feeling should be this sort of here and then this push as this leg drives you forward into your opponent. Does that make sense? So don't use it like this sort of kind of donk feeling. Let it be dynamic in its push in. As it hits, it plants and pushes. Then in the next action, your body center shouldn't really move. It'll move forward a little, but don't sort of lunge it forward. Rather, cautiously keep the pressure in that back leg. Keep that pressure back there to make that next drive, right? Don't drive your body center forward, but drive it forward. Don't just throw your body center forward. Drive it forward in a coordinated, controlled fashion that back stance requires you to do. Does that make sense? So as you hit, you make your first action. If I just do the easy double one, here, this sticks, then my body action here. So it's this feeling of more just throwing this way. Does that make sense? I'm not just lunging in. Otherwise I'd have you go to Zenkuts. Try again. Ish. Knee. Sun. One more. She. Very good. So the idea here is if I had an opponent, I'm going to try and explain it. I don't have a Michael Rowe in the room to bash today, right? But the feeling that I would have would be here, attacks coming in off this arm. I'm simply going to step back. I'm going to block this, hit him. And this is just guiding the arm past. Either or I can even make it into a punch into the front of the hip, wherever I want. Right, either I guide it as Gerenbara, but I block the arm, or I just smash it into the front of his hip or into his lower abs, which stop him. This then just smacks him in the face, throat, solar plexus, gut, well, your choice. Right on that open side. The second step steps in. From here I grab his arm and make Juji-uke like so. So I'm effectively just arm barring him into the technique. Meanwhile, this leg drives in and under underneath on his hamstring, right? So it'll be here, and so what you would see is the person would fall directly here as a result. So I'm using this as a block armbar as I move. Hence, the action being in kokutsudachi and allowing the hip and the body to make that turn. Does that make sense? And why I must use this rear hip action to make that drive. Okay? So it'll be grab, grab, hence the augmentation. Right? Remember, marote means to augment. That doesn't mean that it's adding to a push or anything like that. It just means that both hands are in use. And it's the same with Juji-uke. Right? Juji-uke means not that I'm jamming something up or X-block, that's the shape, but the action is both hands are in use. And that's the point. Does that make sense? So let's try that just 2 more times, and then we'll move on to the next one. From here, ready? Ish. Good, coming up. Knee. Good. One more. Just another thing, I caught Amando doing it. Don't worry, so was Marcello. You're right next to each other in my screens. Be wary of this elbow, right? You're here. Don't lift this elbow up and bring it down. There's no real action. Feel rather it just staying close to the body. As you're making this, you can imagine here, this hand grabs, this hand here will just loop underneath. And so you want to keep the elbow low to make this bends the arm and then just bring it down on top, almost Sukuyu-uke kind of feeling. Right? So you're this feeling, and this leg just kicks out that other leg that you're coming in. You're basically just broadsiding them, kicking this leg out and dropping them this way. Does that make sense? I have good human visualization of what I'm doing to people, but I suggest that you try. I was going to bring in as a joke my 7-year-old son and go, here's my demo partner, right? He's like this tall, but I figured that somebody will call child services, I'll get in trouble, you know, that kind of thing. The thing is that as you make this, feel what you're doing as you're making the action. Does that make sense? So all of this is beautifully, and those who've done Basai short, you know the feeling of connecting action to your hip. Do you know what I mean? And this is exactly that. You see what I mean? See how I'm emphasizing the hip action as I make that throw. So it's not my arms, it's not me here going and trying to muscle. I just put these in the right place, use my hip to make the action that I want. You see what I mean? But maintaining the strength of the stance. Not just letting my legs go floppy and just turning my hips. I'm using the muscles of my hips to push where I want it to go and where I want them to go. Where I want that leverage. Cool?